and welcome to the first K.I.N.G. Values video. Today we're going to focus on the G in K.I.N.G., which stands for growth. Let me tell you a little bit about a goal that I've had for myself for a while now, and that's to run for 30 kilometres. Let that sink in for a moment because it's a long way. It's a goal that really pushes the boundaries of what I think that I can do. Now, I do run a bit. I probably run 2 to 3 times a week, but most of my runs are maybe 5 to 7K long. And I've just looked back over the history of my running, and I've done 6 runs in the last 30 days. So the last big run that I did was back on the 11th of December, which is about a month and a half ago, and that was 12.9 kilometres. So I've done a half marathon back in Melbourne probably about 10 years ago, and a half marathon in Australia is 21.1 kilometres. And I'd say that I've probably never run more than 22 kilometres in my entire life. So clearly there's some physical restrictions because I haven't trained for this at all. But there's also some psychological boundaries that I'm probably more concerned about. So the first one is, of course, that I've never run even close to 30 kilometres in my life. So I've got no concept of whether I can do it or not. Now, 30 kilometres is a long way. Haven't trained for that distance ever. So when I did run the half marathon maybe 10 years ago, I did train to run 21 kilometres. This time I haven't trained at all for this. And another problem is that where I live, it's basically surrounded by mountains. I've got mountains to the left and mountains to the right. Lots of bike tracks and things like that up there. But to get to any level, running top of the mountain kind of concept, you have to run up these rather large gradients to get there. And even up the top, it's up and down, very undulating all the time. I could get in the car and drive somewhere that's flat, and there's plenty of options. But if I'm going to have this as a challenge, then I'm going to have this as a challenge. So I've decided that where I'm going to run is straight up the mountains and then try to do 30 kilometres from that. So if it's a challenge, I thought I'd try to make the playing field a little bit more easy. Atomic Habits by James Clear. I don't know if you've read it. It's a great book. I definitely recommend it. He talks about the second law of habits, which is make it easy. So I prepared everything the night before. Okay, so this is what I took on my day. So I took a couple of ibuprofen before I left. I figured they last 4 hours. That definitely worked remarkably well. I took an apple juice. This is what I had around my waist with full pockets. Toilet paper in there just in case I needed it. I bought a couple of different energy gels. I think I had one about the 2 and maybe 2.5 hour mark. Apple juice, which was frozen as I start, so nice and cool. Stop shin splints, stop sore knees, and this is the C4, which I used. It's a concentrated energy drink again, which I just mixed with water, and I had that probably around about the 2 to 2.5 hour mark as well. So all up, most of the stuff when I felt my energy waning about the 25 kilometre mark, this is what I was using to help, and that's the whole kit that I took. All went in the belt went around my waist, and that was basically it. Okay, so did I make it? I'm proud to say yes I did, and it was both easier and harder than I thought it was going to be. So what was my mindset? So the first probably 21K, pretty easy. I'd taken my tablets, so I had everything ready. I was in no pain. Yes, the mountains were pretty steep, but I went pretty slowly. Honestly, it wasn't that hard. It's probably a lot easier than doing a 21K marathon. So my mindset was good. I was feeling good. I was doing some mental checklists as I went, but essentially not too bad. Having said that, 21Ks to maybe 26, when I was running down the mountain, it was starting to get a bit tough, and I had to sort of dig a little bit deeper in myself and find that potential to actually get there. And I suppose the biggest thing that was running through my mind was the fact that every single step that I took was a new record, the furthest I've ever gone. So when I got to 22Ks to 23Ks, that was the most I've ever run. 24 is the most I've ever run, 25 and 26. By the time I got down to 26, I was pretty much out of the mountains and I had 4 more kilometres to run. So where I live, there is a park. It's about 1 kilometre from length to length. So I knew I was going to have to run around that up and back, and then I'd be done. That was fine, but I stopped at the road to cross the road because there was cars and it was school pickup time, so there's quite a few cars around. And then I noticed just in my arm about here, I got a cramp. It felt pretty sore. And then my left leg, same cramp, and it was that sort of muscular pain. So I ended up walking across the road rather than trying to run and trying to just shake it off. And it was very weird, the fact that was hurting. It wasn't my legs and this part that I'd been exercising for the last 3 or 4 hours. So once I got through that, my rate dramatically dropped off. I was not trying to go fast, I was just trying to go. I kept running slowly at first, trying to get a little bit of pace, but at the same time very conscious of my muscles seizing up. After I shook it off, it wasn't too bad. It was definitely hurting, but again, not too bad. In the end, by the time I finished, 4 hours and 10 minutes had gone past. Certainly not a great pace by any stretch of the imagination, but again, it was the most I've ever run, and I was very, very happy with having done it. I don't know psychologically if I was just aiming for the 30 kilometers. I didn't feel like I had much more left in the tank. I may have, if I had planned to do 35, I reckon maybe I could have done 35. But at the time, the sun was starting to come up. It was pretty warm in the day. Or it was still a little bit cloudy, but once I got out of the tree line and into the full sun, I definitely noticed it, and it was starting to hurt. But I did it. And I suppose I should also mention the other thing was my watch went into low battery mode, and I think it kicked off both my Samsung Health and my Map My Run and stopped it. I didn't notice it until I was coming up to the last little bit, and I looked down and I saw my my Samsung Health one basically had stopped, so I restarted that. So by the time I finished that, it said I'd only done 29.96, so I was about 40 meters off essentially the target, but I'm certain that it had stopped well and truly maybe half a kilometre before, so it was well and truly that. My other one had stopped completely when I was still back in the park, and it said I had done 28.9 kilometres, so it said basically I had to do another 1.5 kilometres, and I well and truly did that. I think I did another couple of laps of the park before I did it. So I'm very confident in myself. I did do my 30Ks, even though the biggest one that it said was 29.96, I believe. So these are the shoes I ran in. Certainly a long way off being a classy pair of shoes. They probably cost me $30. Bought them last year. I've done a lot of running in them. I just dug them out of the bin right now just to show you. But yeah, I picked them just simply because they were comfortable. I didn't want to be 3 hours in and go, oh, my feet are starting to hurt because they're new shoes. I've got better shoes than those, but those are the ones that I chose. Okay, some basic stats for those of you out there who are interested in that sort of thing, and I'm sure there's a few that are. 4 hours, 10 minutes all up it took. I did 137 meters up, 143 beats per minute, which is reasonably high. I didn't feel like it was that much. Every kilometer my watch would tell me what I was doing. It seemed a lot lower than that, but obviously I was pressing pretty hard at the end. 5,040 calories I burned off, which probably surprised me. I didn't think I'd burn off that much. 7.1 kilometers per hour was my eventual speed. That's pretty slow for me, but again, up the mountains and 4 kilometer runs. So look, I'll take it. I'm happy with that. 5.53 kilometers ascent and 5.57 down, which leaves the remaining kilometers relatively flat. During that 4 hours, what was I thinking? What was my frame of mind? Obviously, I was thinking about how to put this video together and all the things related to that. I was thinking a bit about relationships, work, accountability, problem solving. And I think the more that I was in my head, the easier it was to do the run itself. I wasn't concentrating on every step. I was looking out and I was having a look at the nature. As I said, I saw some kangaroos and that was kind of cool. Okay, so today, day after the run, how am I feeling? Yep, my legs, they're a bit stiff. Mainly my left leg, more than my right for some reason. I mentioned that I had a bit of a pain in my arm here as I was running yesterday. The thing that's actually hurting me the most for some reason is the muscle on the back of my left shoulder, just the left. I have no idea why. I'm sure there's people out there who would be qualified to say, oh, that's because of this. But for me, in my limited accountability and advice, I would say it's just the fact that I'm running with the arms like this, and obviously I'm pulling this muscle. Doing that for 4 hours has clearly hurt me. But it's not a ridiculous amount of pain. I've actually come up pretty well. Ankle, shoes, feet, everything like that, really no big problem. So happy with that. Okay, so what did I learn? Well, it really changed my perception of what my limitations were, both physically and mentally. Obviously, in my head, I was thinking, I know I can run 20 plus kilometers, but I just didn't really believe that I could run 30Ks. Now, obviously, I know I can. I probably suspect that I could do a full marathon if I wanted to, but I'd like to think I'd be smart enough to do some training before I actually did it. I suppose the other big thing out of it is that I know that the pain that I'm experiencing today will disappear, but the actual achievement of running 30 kilometers will stay with me for life. And I know in 10 years from now, when I look back at this moment, I'll be really happy that I did it and that I know that I could do it. It's really pushed that limitation that I had out the window. Done. Okay, so let's get to what's at the heart of this project and what I'm trying to do, especially with the growth part. what's one thing that you could actually do that would push yourself above the boundaries that you have set for yourself right now? What is it you can currently do that you just don't think you can do? Is it a physical thing? Is it a mental thing? Is it work related? Do you want to write a book but don't think you can? Or maybe just condense it down and say a novella or an article. In a work setting, is it you've never made 100 cold calls in one day? Or even on a more simplistic level, do you want to ask someone out that you previously believed is well above and beyond who you've asked out before? Then just do it. The point is that you can do so much more than you think you can currently do. And in doing this challenge, I've proved that to myself. So pick something that's above and beyond what you currently think you can do, write it down, set out a training plan, unlike me, and just go and do it. And I'd love to hear in the comments some feedback about what you chose and congratulate you when you actually do it. So please subscribe to my channel. It's a new channel. I hopefully will see you here again. Hopefully you've got something great out of this video. I've enjoyed putting it together. Not so much enjoyed the running, but I'm really glad that I did the challenge, and I'll see you here again soon. See you later.